Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Blaze Rhythm here. I figured I would just make a video to talk about the Marvel Avengers update that dropped last week, which is the War for Wakanda update. I did a reaction vid to it and the update dropped. I've been playing it since. I've currently gotten my character to the maximum level. I'm currently working on getting to the maximum power level, but I figured I could do a video just discussing the update, whether or not it delivered on what we hoped it would deliver, and just the general reviews about it. So um, yeah, that's the general idea of the video. To start off with, if we're talking about what the update delivered, I would say if okay, actually let's start this way. Let's start from the story. The story is a relatively classical one. It's still the same conflict with Black Panther and Ulysses Claw, who has always been one of his main villains, his main foes, and they centered the whole story around this thing between them. Claw wants to get the vibranium of Wakanda. Obviously, Black Panther wants to protect it, and that was the basis of everything that went on in the story. One of the really nice things I really liked is they still tied it to AIM, which are the main baddies of the base game itself. So Claw is working for AIM as a contractor, and he's in Wakanda trying to get vibranium off them. So why they did add a link to the base game, they also gave Lucius Claw a personal connection to the story because apparently his dad used to be, actually, spoiler. For anyone who hasn't played the game, this is a spoiler warning. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what happened in the game, but just more so that you're aware of the general, I guess, the general stuff. Spoiler again, just to be sure. Okay. So I said the personal angle was basically Claw's father went to Wakanda, had an issue with the previous Black Panther, and he got killed in Wakanda. And that personal connection is partly why Claw is the one who's there, and Claw is the one who is fighting against T'Challa himself. And obviously, this story expands a little bit on the relationship, expands a little bit on the relationship between T'Challa and Shuri. And I feel like for an expansion, well, not an expansion, for like a, it is an expansion. For an expansion, I think he did the job it was set out to do. It gave a good enough story. It gave a good enough intro to Black Panther, a good enough intro to Wakanda, and the story from beginning to end wrapped up in a nice enough way that I enjoyed what they gave us. So that's Phaeton's story. To talk about the mission structure, I think the mission structure was relatively, I won't say simple, I'll say it was a bit, not a bit, it was a lot better than what was in the base game in the sense of the missions were long, they were engaging. It wasn't a simple one and done. There were a lot of things to be accomplished in the mission, and this is probably one of the few things, one of the main things I really do enjoy. Each mission felt different, even if sometimes obviously they retread similar maps, but this tends to happen in most games, so I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, the mission structure was fine. The story lent itself well to the mission, and having Shuri in your ear instead of Jarvis was a nice touch. We expected as much, but it was nice to actually just see it in action. Um, I like how the Avengers were brought in not to be the saviors of Wakanda, but more to be an assistance, and it made using Black Panther a lot more interesting because you could almost see him as if he was the one leading the Avengers. Obviously, he's not, but that's how the story sort of played out in the sense of the Avengers were helping and he took control of the situation. So that's lovely. To talk about the combat, if you've seen the wall table, then you obviously have an idea of how fluid Black Panther moves. But to be honest with you, playing him is probably one of the most interesting things that the game has given me. He plays wonderfully. His combat, his speed, his movement, his agility, his combos, his counters, everything works so smoothly. And I'll probably say this is probably the closest they've gotten to a character in terms of how he fights based on the movies, based on the comics, based on the animations. It is wonderful. He has wonderful combos you can set up. You've got really nice vibranium counters, which is similar to, I don't know if it's similar to the MCU movie or if it's similar to something that he has in the comics. But basically, if you hold down R2 or the right, is it right trigger or right bumper for Xbox? Either way, if you hold down R2, for anyone who's got controllers, you know what that control is. You can basically stack up your counter until your intrinsic is full. And when intrinsic is full, you can release like a kinetic blast, which is similar to what he does in his movie in the MCU, which is really nice, as I said. Which makes him a very a force to be reckoned with in combat, because you can just keep going if you time your counters properly, and it is wonderful. He's one of my favorite characters up there. So yeah, the combat is phenomenal, and I genuinely can't praise it enough. They did wonderful with it. The UI, to talk about the UI change, one of the things that came with the expansion as well is the UI change. The old UI did its job. It was nice. It wasn't bad, but it was clunky. There were a few things that took a long time to do, and it got annoying over time, obviously. So they've tidied it, everything for your characters in one screen. Obviously, you can dig deeper into the screens based on what you want, but everything is in one place, and you can see everything for your character, from their nameplate, their skins, their loot, challenge card, everything basically is one page. Same with the objectives. You can see your objectives, you can see your assignments, you can see your challenges. Same thing on one page. You can shift through the tabs if you want, but I like that they've simplified the UIs moving forward, and I feel like it's a nice change. Also, the character, one of the things that I noticed from the get-go and I really loved is from the character screen, you can see that they have a plan for loadouts, which is something that a lot of people have been requesting, including me. And this basically means that it's currently not in the game right now, but I believe it's going to be in a future update. And the idea is to be able to have different loadouts for your characters, so that you don't have to be changing gear every time within missions. You can just choose a loadout and keep it moving, and I love that. Obviously, it's when it actually does land that we can critique whether or not the loadout works as it should. But as it stands, I love the UI change. I love the ideas behind it, and I really do hope that it does flesh out in a proper way. The next thing I'll talk about is the bugs. Now, I have been playing it, as I said, I've been playing the update since it dropped last week Tuesday, and it's been playing relatively smooth. Most of the bugs are gone, most of the problems are gone. However, I found that with some stuff gone, we've got new stuff replacing it. For example, we have, this might be a slight recurring bug, but we have instances of missions not completing or being stuck in a mission because one of the enemies has bugged through somewhere. Now, this is a bug that was relatively sorted out earlier on, but I feel like it's returned, at least on PlayStation 5. Another one that's slightly annoying and something I've been seeing a lot more is the black balls that sort of manifest when you're fighting against enemies in the current state of the game. As I said, this is currently for PlayStation 5. I've asked around, and the people playing on PC say they haven't seen such a bug. I have seen it. I've got a friend who's seen it. I've taken a video, and you can see from this little clip the problem sort of showing up. I've reported it. Hopefully we can find a solution for it, but that is really the biggest bug right now, is the black balls appearing on the screen. Sometimes it might just be like 1, sometimes it goes from 1 to about 10 on the screen, and it can get so annoying sometimes. So that's really it on the bug side. For some of them, most of them I can ignore. The enemies bugging through,
I've marked the Hive's entry terminal on your HUD.
Map, I can ignore. Enemies slugging or missions not completing, I can ignore. You can easily just restart checkpoint and keep it moving. But the black balls, I think, is the biggest one of all of them that I think needs a relatively quick fix. So yeah, and that's the general idea of what I've
Access
got so
that
far
terminal.
in the video. that's basically what I see in my playtime. I'm gonna keep playing other things, see if there's anything new that comes out. But yeah, that's the general idea for my thing. So if I was to review this, if I was to give my thoughts or final review on what I think, I would give delivers on the story, comeback, UIs, but the ball, the bottom, no annoying, I believe it's one of the right direction to build up on it. So yeah, that's me all I have. If you've got the update, if you played the update, please below, comment, or yeah, I will catch you guys later. Because I'm bringing back the game board on Instagram again. Yeah, if you love the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It's the lifeblood for a YouTuber, and I will catch you
All elevators have been accessed.
yeah.